Okay, this is going to get a little bit personal. Okay, let me start with a confession. Whenever I do some serious self-reflection and some self-examination of my thoughts, I always come to the same conclusion. I don't know how to put this. I'm an asshole. I'm just naturally just not a nice guy. And I'm not saying that to fish for comments like, nah, Raf, you're being too hard on yourself, blah, blah, blah. You don't really know me. I take great pleasure in pointing out and amplifying flaws in others that I know that they're self-conscious about and would hurt them the most, because that makes me feel good about myself. Everyone's got a special talent. That just so happens to be mine. And I'm really, really good at it. However, because I do the self-reflection and I'm aware of my assholishness, I spend a lot of energy to not be an asshole. In fact, I spend so much energy to not be an asshole that it exhausts me to the point that I'm too tired to be an asshole and it looks like I'm just a chill dude. So it kind of works out.
But what does that have to do with fragrance?
Well, it's because of where my mind goes when I hear common fragrance discourse, like when someone tells me,
I don't care what people think about my fragrance.
I immediately know exactly what they want people to think about their fragrance. And it's not good. Because nobody says that unless they're desperate for it to be true. And this, among many other things, is the problem with fragrance culture. You think it's about smelling good or having taste. Wrong. It's about having a defensible story, an alibi. An alibi? What the fuck does that mean? Okay, I'll explain it. But it means we'll have to talk about status, or what some really old people might call it.
Status.
We tend to think about status as about money and luxury and obvious signals, but status is mostly about distance. Not that kind of distance, but distance from mass taste, obvious enjoyment, anything that looks too easy. That's why the highest status things in culture often look confusing and uncomfortable and slightly broken and deeply inconvenient. I mean, have you seen those Comme des Garçons shoes? Ridiculous. The easiest example I can think of is when dudes used to wear those big-ass fucking top hats, and the girls used to wear those fucking massive dresses that were shaped like bird cages and with boots that laced up to your knees. That was an obvious distancing display to show that there was no way in hell that they could possibly work a manual labor job in a factory with all of that shit on. They were signaling that, yeah, we don't need to work. I mean, they weren't probably verbalizing it, but it was like, hey, look how fucking big my hat is, bro. It must mean I live in a massive house with massive ceilings or something, eh? Or for the girls with those fucking dresses, it's be like signaling, hey, I need at least 2 other people to help me with my skirts so I can take a piss. I'm not like you. You and me, we're worlds apart, which explains why half of modern culture looks like it's daring you to say that you don't like it, because as soon as you say that you don't like it, it means you're the pleb, you're the masses. You're not frequenting a masseria in Puglia. You don't even know what that means, and you're probably Googling it right now.
What does that have to do with fragrance?
All right, well, fragrance culture didn't invent this bullshittery, but it has perfected it. Because nothing says, I'm not like you, quite like enjoying something that actively repels other people. Anybody say oud? And that's never an accident. It's what we call costly signaling, also known as shit that's too expensive for low-quality individuals to fake, also known as conspicuous consumption of Veblen goods. Thanks, Thorstein. If everyone liked it, if everyone had it, if it was easy to do, it wouldn't work. And this brings me to my unique core idea for this video, which is the fragrance alibi. Most people don't wear fragrance to smell good. They think they do, but they don't. They wear fragrance to explain themselves in advance. An alibi is not proof, it's just a story that survives questioning. And fragrance is perfect for this because it's subjective, invisible, and deniable. This smells weird.
Yes, but it's niche.
Whoa, this is strong.
Yes, but it's an extrait de parfum.
This smells old.
Yes, but it's a classic.
Ooh, this smells expensive.
Exactly.
The scent is secondary because the explanation is the product. Now let's talk about my favorite city, authenticity. And my assholishness is on full display here when I say authenticity is where culture really eats itself. And sometimes, some of the thoughts that keep me up at night is like, if I eat myself, do I disappear or do I double in size? Anyway, everyone wants to claim authenticity.
I don't want no shills, eh? I don't want nobody that likes everything and is critical of nothing. I don't want no persona. I don't want a character. I don't want a caricature.
I want a whole person because that's authentic. Rubbish. Because nobody wants unfiltered authenticity. They want authenticity, but with subtitles. You know, like be real, but be real in a way that others can process. Because unfiltered authenticity is when you are 100% yourself and you never explain it. Ever. What people really want, though, is for you to be yourself, but in a way that can be understood and categorized. They want a double shot of decaf. They want a Diet Coke with their burger and fries. If someone says, I just like what I like, that sounds strong and independent. But it's socially awkward because now I don't know what group you belong to and I don't know what you value. And I don't know how to compare myself to you. I don't know whether I should copy you. That's also very important. Humans constantly place other people. Are you luxury? Are you minimalist? Vintage? Artsy? Mainstream? Philosophical? Ridiculously good-looking? Rebellious but in a safe way? When you refuse to explain yourself, you remove the labels, and that makes people uncomfortable.
Like the back of a Volkswagen Beetle?
Yes, like in the back of a Volkswagen Beetle. That's why this type of authenticity is perceived as a threat, and it's a threat because culture runs on shared categories. If you say, I like this fragrance because it reminds me of my grandfather, that's safe. It gives context. If you say, I don't know, I just like it, now I can't evaluate you. And humans don't like that because we don't just consume things, we use the things to map people. And if that's absent, it means I can't evaluate you. I can't place you. And, worst of all, I can't copy you safely.
But what does that have to do with fragrance?
Well, in fragrance terms, unfiltered authenticity kind of looks like this. This smells good to me. End of story. Whereas socially comfortable authenticity would kind of sound like this. This is a 1980s fougere with barbershop DNA and a masculine structure that is classic. One gives no framework, the other gives people a box, a hierarchy, a reference point. And as a wise man once said, humans love boxes. So that's why authentic people spend so much time explaining how authentic they are. Fragrance YouTube is full of this. I'm not sponsored. I don't care about hype. I wear this for me. Great. Then why are you filming it? People confuse authenticity with honesty. Very often. But it's more about plausibility. Can I believe this version of you without it threatening my own self-image? That's the real test. Like if I say, yeah, look, I only wear rare artisanal fragrances that normal people just wouldn't understand. Even if I don't explicitly say it, but it's my vibe, now you've got two options. One, admit that I have better taste than you, or two, decide that I'm pretentious. Most people choose option two because it protects their self-image, even if the opposite is true. Like if I say, I just wear whatever smells good, I don't really care about niche. That can threaten someone who built their identity around niche knowledge. Now they think, you're a basic bitch. Yeah, you don't get it. Go back to school, Junior. You're not there yet. But again, that's just self-protection of the ego, and it's subconsciously done before you even have the chance to process it rationally. Very simply put, people will accept your authentic self, as long as it doesn't make them feel insecure about theirs. That's it. There's no more, no less. It's not about fragrance, it's about ego preservation. Here's a cultural lie we need to kill, that creativity means never seen before, because true originality is rare, it's fragile, and it's hilariously misunderstood, and it's usually ignored. It's when people say shit like, it was ahead of its time. These things often don't work, and they don't get successful. But what actually works is reframing, taking something familiar, changing the context so it feels new. It sounds lazy, but it's actually intelligence of the highest order, because culture doesn't reward invention. You can smell it for yourself. There's literally dozens of extremely well-known and now legendary and mostly discontinued vintage fragrances that were only discontinued because they were sales flops. And this was because they were such a huge departure from the mainstream that people just didn't vibe with them. We say we want originality, but we don't reward it. Instead, we reward reinterpretations that flatter the audience. You want to know why fragrance YouTubers all talk the same shit, use the same metrics, use the same language, even the same rotation of fragrances, top 10 list, panty droppers. Ooh. New category unlocked. But they really all sound like one big mammoth monotone block of noise because that's what the audience rewards. And this is why old things keep coming back and retro never dies. And timeless is the safest compliment in the world. In fragrance terms, the notes do not change. The stories do. That vintage discontinued unicorn didn't get better. Although it is nice. Just the explanation of it got better, actually. And that in itself is a form of marketing. And people have a very limited view about marketing. And it's mostly wrong because they think marketing persuades people to buy shit they don't need with money they don't have to impress people they don't like. But people don't want to be persuaded. They want to be justified. No one's buying a fragrance and then reasoning it out. They reason it out so they give themselves permission to buy it. Marketing doesn't say, you should want this. It says, you already want this. Here's how to explain it without losing status. That's why the best marketing doesn't feel like marketing. It feels like self-discovery. Oh, wow. That is me. No, that was planted. Now, I know I sound cruel, and I already told you I'm an asshole, but life is cruel. History is full of examples of assholes whose stories have survived the test of time, just like some fragrances survive, just because they're bad, because they create friction, because they provoke reactions, because they force conversations. A boring fragrance dies quietly. A divisive one becomes culture. Why? Because conflict is socially useful. If your fragrance gets comments, you exist. If it doesn't, you vanish. And this is why extreme things thrive in niche spaces, not despite being polarizing, but because they are polarizing. All right, let me wrap this up before my veneer of relatability starts to fade. Your fragrance is not saying who you are. It's saying which criticisms you're prepared to defend yourself against. Every bottle is a preemptive argument. It's not about, this is me. It's more about, if you question me, this is the story I'll tell you. And once you see that, well, you can't unsee it. Which is really uncomfortable and admittedly a very assholish thing for me to do. That was fun. But it's very useful because now when someone says, I don't care what people think about my fragrance, you'll know exactly what they're doing. And it'll make you smile. But in a very assholish way.